Now, our next speaker is Professor Rachel Burton from the ARC Center of Excellence in Plant Cell Walls at the University of Adelaide at the Waite campus. Professor Burton's area of expertise is plant molecular biology and plant functional genomics. She is particularly interested in how cell walls are made, remodeled, and degraded, and the impacts these processes have on us as we use plant materials in our daily lives. Cell walls are important to keep plants upright, and their structure influences how we use plants as feedstock for renewable biofuel production, while many polysaccharides in food have major health benefits such as dietary fiber. She is working on barley and other cereals, plantago, agave, and saltbush. Please welcome Professor Rachel Burton.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see so many of you when this was just 2 days ago this wasn't going to happen. And as of yesterday afternoon, I had no idea I would be facing you today and telling you about plants. So I'm glad that you could come. All right, so when they asked me to speak here today, I said, what shall I talk about? And they said, whatever you like. So it's no secret that I love plants. And I think I've been interested in plants since I was tiny. And when I was thinking about what I would say, I thought I would tell you a story about some of the things that influenced me to be interested in plants. And I think it started with my grandparents. So I came from the UK. My grandfather retired when he was 55 from the BBC, and as you do, he moved down to the south of Devon on the south coast of England, and he bought a beautiful timber house down there. And he and Nana retired. They were absolute mad keen gardeners, and the garden wasn't designed when they got there, so they put in a heap of paving and some very clever garden beds and a fantastic vegetable patch. So I went down there as a tiny kid from every year, sometimes a couple of times a year, and I got served things on my dinner plate that I had no idea what they were. I guess in the 70s and 80s, we couldn't get the range of vegetables and fruit that we take for granted now. And Nana and Grandpa used to grow all these weird and wonderful things, and I'd happily eat them, not knowing it was not normal. So this day and age, whenever I go to the checkout and the checkout chick says to me, "Is that a parsnip or a turnip?" It's sad. Anyway, I won't eat Brussels sprouts though, I have to tell you. Okay. Right, okay, somebody else that doesn't like Brussels sprouts. So, Nana and Grandpa had this wonderful garden. It was very productive and it could feed them. And the other thing that they loved was flowers, and they had designed their garden so that they could have flowers in the house. But Grandpa also had a glass house, and it was designed to match the house, so it was a beautiful cedar framed glass house, and it had that beautiful smell of cedar. And every time I go in a place that has that smell, it immediately takes me back to that glass house. I used to spend happy hours with Grandpa in there, but I never really thought to question why there was only one sort of flower in there. Like, all these plants were the same. They looked a little bit different, but they were more or less the same. And it turned out that Grandpa had an obsession with begonias. Why begonias, I don't know. Anyway, so this obsession actually extended to him sending seed away, and this was in the 70s, I guess, to be irradiated, and then he would get the seed back, and he would grow the plants out, and he would select the ones with the most beautiful, largest flowers and the different colours. So he had a breeding program going on. And what he would do was every summer he would make these amazing hanging baskets, which he would hang from the eaves of the house. They were huge, they weighed a ton, and he would put his beautiful begonias into the hanging baskets, and they were famous. People would come and look at the hanging baskets. Very often there were people in the road admiring them. So he would use his breeding program to make his flowers. Now, it was Nana's job to water the hanging baskets, so after dinner, Grandpa would retreat and he would take his slippers and his newspaper, and poor Nana would pull out her stepladder and her watering can. She wasn't allowed to have a hose pipe because it would make a mess, so she had to have a watering can, and she would water these hanging baskets. But it was dangerous because she had to avoid a menace. So at dusk in the UK, in Devon, stag beetles, male stag beetles, would come out hunting for mates. And they are enormous, these things. They can get up to 12 centimetres long. That's huge. How they can fly, I don't know. That's another thing for aerodynamics. So they would fly around, and I've just found out on the website actually that they're endangered. Now I'm not really surprised about this, because the males would fly around, and actually the females were on the ground. So the beetle tinder wasn't working very well. So, but Nana would have to avoid these bugs, and they would smack into her. They're 12 centimetres long and smack into her, and she was absolutely paranoid about getting them in her hair, and very often Lily fell off the ladder. So it was a miracle she didn't break anything. So I think that I was indoctrinated from a very early age, not only from the vegetables that Nana and Grandpa grew, but also from the breeding program that Grandpa did. And he was driven by the challenge of the genetics and his own interest. He had no intention of releasing the flowers that he was making. He just wanted to put them in these beautiful hanging baskets. So I guess when I do my research, and I am a research scientist, so I do research in the lab and I teach postgraduates and undergraduates, and I have 2 teenage children at home who are trying to decide what to do with their lives. When I think about how I'm going to get interested in science, there are a few things that I can think that are important. So I want what I do and what other scientists do to be useful. That, I think, is a goal for all of us, and Paul said it much more eloquently than I can, but I want to work on things that will make this world better. This world is scaring me. There's hunger, there's climate change, there's non-communicable diseases, we're eating ourselves to death. So we need to make things better, and plants feed us, clothe us, heal us, give us shelter, and they are very important because they provide oxygen. So if our plants can't grow, we can't grow. So there are lots of things that we are doing to try and improve plants and make them able to survive in hostile environments. And I want those things to be useful. And like Paul says, I want to produce a product that people will accept as genuine and made with care, and I want people to be able to trust that what I'm producing is going to be able to help them. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to understand the science in detail, but I think the communication of science to our young people is really important, and it's lovely to see enough kids around here. And I might just point out, Paul, when you said 3.8 billion years, her dad has got a t-shirt that says 4 billion years, so who's right? All right, okay. So communicating our science is going to be really, really important. But the other thing that's really important is looking after our scientists. We are not funding our science enough, and we are not looking after the talent that we have here. So when I say to my students, go into science, I feel a little bit awkward, because for me, a career path in science doesn't exist. It's very, very tough to keep going in science, and sometimes you have to be really, really lucky. So how can I put my hand on my heart, and how can I say to my daughter and my son, well, be a scientist? Most important thing to do is something you love, but if there's a very difficult career path there, well, then maybe that's going to put people off. So we need to nurture our talent, we need to provide the funding, we need to put a better system in place so they're not short-term contracts all the time, and we need to encourage people into science so that there is a long-term career path for them there. So, and we see that we're not allowed to get, we may not be able to get as many skilled people into Australia, so that makes it even more relevant that we nurture our homegrown talent and make sure that they have a career path that they can follow. So these are a few things that I can think about science. It's fantastic that you've come out to support us. Spread the word. If there's things that we can do to help you understand the science, then I think science communication is something that we really need to keep trying at. Thank you very much. Any questions?